title. Oh, whatever. It is what it is. Yeah, we're live now.
Sure. Hello, Internet.
Am I hearing it? Oh, I hear it. Now it's like a delay. What is up with the resolution, though?
For what we are live, so let's go ahead and talk about IT stuff. What's going on?
It's like 720, man. I need something higher than that. I need like a 1080.
I don't even see your face no more. There you go.
Oh no, the camera went out.
Yeah,
there we go.
Okay, so the resolution, is it on your camera, my camera, or both?
I think it's coming from Zoom. I haven't did Zoom live in a minute. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I saw the camera going out. Yeah, so so everybody is tuned in now.
Let's start the show.
What is the script? Thank y'all for tuning in to Keeping It Real Politically. We are doing this in a different form. Well, I'm doing this in a different format because I invited John back on again today. And I'm pulling away from the radio station. I guess we can talk about that.
Sure.
And I mean, the owner catches it. It just kind of is what it is. So I'm trying to so the reason we're live on YouTube, and I'm going to bring it on Twitch, I guess, next week as well, too, is that I'm trying to pull away from radio. I tried it for a year. And yeah, I mean, most people can work at it because they're not going to have too many listeners coming in. But I think for me, I'm trying to gravitate more towards a studio audience. And the reason I'm saying that, I've always wanted that anyway, but while I was in vacation in LA last week.
Yeah, tell them where you went. You went to LA.
I went to Vegas.
There you
Vegas
go.
went for me. Vegas was my wife. Vegas was not for me.
Okay, whatever.
So then, but I enjoyed it because we went to Hoover Dam.
Right.
So I mean, so if I'm going any place, I'm traveling any place, I want to get some history behind it. So that's the stuff I love doing. I don't care about the whole gambling aspect of anything or people like being on resorts. I'm not a resort person. I go on a resort to stay on a resort, but when it comes to like tourist stuff, I hate tourist stuff. I want to go to where the natives are. I want to hear the history about things. So that's why I really enjoyed Hoover Dam. And then from Vegas, we went over to LA. And, we did Hollywood Hills, and then we did Warner Brothers Studios and a couple other places. But what really set me down my path of deciding on, finalizing what I thought I wanted to do, because John and I talked about it last week, and a couple other people, but John mostly, because John has been active on the show, is that me moving into a live studio audience. And I have a relationship with this one group. It's called Kit Labs. They have a huge studio space. Well, it's not even studio space. They have a huge space in downtown Atlanta. It's close to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, if you all are familiar with the Atlanta area. For those that catch this video later on, that's not watching right now. But yes, it's right by Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Has a great view. It's a huge open spot. It's a tech spot. That's why I initially met them, because I was invited to a tech conference to come out and speak about IT security, because that's my specialization. That's what my background is network and then security. And then so I was there speaking on it. So I ended up building a relationship with some of the owners there, and I got a membership with them. So with the membership, I get a lot of perks, and utilizing that space as a studio is one of those perks because I'm paying for it.
Fantastic.
Now,
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, so it's like if I'm already paying for one, I'm paying for two things, technically speaking. I'm paying for two things. Okay, what can get the best bang for what?
But don't forget, we have to make this clear. The radio station you're paying for too, or you're not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm paying for two things. So I'm paying for the radio station, and I'm paying for the studio. Well, the Kit Labs. Now, both of them about the same. I think come out to be about the same thing. I think Kit Labs might be it's on a monthly basis type thing. But anyway, I'm still paying for both. So for me, I think I get more utilization out of going towards Kit Labs than what I would out of going to the radio station. Radio station has been perfect. I mean, the owner has been great.
Mm-hmm.
He and I hit it off really well because both of us are older gentlemen. I'm not that old, but we're older gentlemen. And so, but and there's nothing towards him at all. It's just me trying to figure out how to best utilize the money being spent and how to get more towards my listeners. And then, to bring in more people, because I like interaction with other people. I want to hear it. And it's not that we couldn't get it there, but you still at that type of radio station, you're limited to like one caller at a time. Whereas if I'm in a active studio audience, I can have people come up to the mic, or I can go walk and talk to them, but I really would have them come up to the mic, how this place is laid out, and have them ask questions for the guests that I would potentially have on. Because I've had, if you all have been following me and following my podcast, I've had a ton of people on the show. Like I'm sitting at 100+ episodes already. I've had politicians on the show. I've had small business owners on the show. I've had presidents of colleges on the show. So I've had a ton of guests on my show. So to have them there, the live studio audience, I think it'll help everybody across the board. So my guests coming on, they get to interact with the public. The public get to interact with them and ask them questions, and they can answer the questions. So it's not just me asking them questions, but I think that is more suited towards the brand that I'm trying to build, more so than the radio station. I like radio. Not to say I won't ever come back to it again, but I tried it. I did it for a year.
Yeah.
My commitment was a year. I did it for a year, and it did grow some, but it wasn't like a big, huge growth. And I think part of that comes into like advertising. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm not going to throw shade at anybody. But
no. I think like also like it's like those guys really treated you well. I mean, I came in.
Yeah.
I've been on a bunch towards the end, and just the format too is it's a little different. It's you're in this one room, scripted room that you have to do it from 6 to 7. That's all. That you have to do it then. And if you're doing that live show, like what's the point of doing a live show unless you can interact with the audience? Right. With your listeners, whether it be a call in, whether it be a write in, like we can answer live questions while we're having a conversation with all the notable people you're having, or having just even being a live audience where you can actually be there, face to face, make connections with your listeners, and they can actually ask questions as well and be more engaged.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of gearing me towards going towards utilizing that space. And I already talked to Angela, and Dr. Angela Williams, she's the president of Atlanta. I'm having a brain fart today. Atlanta Caribbean's Lions Club, and Angela is active with a ton of stuff. So even she said when I talked to her today that she would help out as best she could, and she would actually come out and just to support. And I got a lot of people that said the same thing too. So I think that's where I'm going to eventually be going towards. If not, probably the first part of the year. I'm not going, because the year is almost done and over with, and we getting towards the holiday season. So I'm probably finish this year out all virtual, and then starting like next year, start having shows there.
Yeah, just for anyone who's for all the listeners out there, it's probably, or anyone on YouTube that we're watching. I think that's probably a good just a slight adjustment, and I think that's a good thing. What do you think? Do you have any other plans for different formats, or just try to get that live, to cultivate that live audience, primary one, right?
It's still gonna be live. Okay. Yeah, I'm still gonna. So it's like for me, I want to. Well, I guess I didn't tell the whole story while I was in LA. So what made me push it while I was in LA? My camera going out again. Oh my god! I went to Jennifer Hudson's studio at Warner Brothers Studios.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I would love to. And I mean, they would explain the whole reason behind why they had stadium seating, why the cameras and stuff were set up. And I was like, I would love to have something similar to that.
Yes.
And when I say similar, I want that, but I also want to have like the virtual aspect of it too. So I'm still going to go live. I'm still going to have like virtual guests on too. So even if you can't make it to the physical location, you can still tune in to Twitch, and you can tune, because I'm going to stream both of them, to the Twitch and to YouTube. Yeah, so that's awesome. What made me really trying to like seal the deal on that. And again, it's it's nothing, not to throw any shade at Closer Radio. I mean, I love Closer Radio. Like he gave me a chance, and I tried it out. I wanted to try it out. He gave me an opportunity to try it out. I paid him for it, and it was great.
And it was great. And it's a fine format, but again, like not all gloves fit all hands. Just that,
right.
This is just one of those things like that's fine format, and it was a cool studio, great look. It really had like all the equipment and everything else ready to go. But just like you said, like you have your goals are more for more like live interaction. You know, like I
Yeah.
said, like if you want to, interact, there are just some weaknesses there. It's no one's fault, it's just the way it is.
No.
And so if you have an opportunity to address like what your vision is for your show, it's totally understandable. That's
Right.
not throwing shade on anybody. That's just a reality I think anyone can get. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you can get certain people, they'll take things personally, and really is really
Yeah.
not to. And we can curse on here because I mean, this is
Can we?
this is not.
All right.
We're not. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. So I mean, I curse, but and then Jersey does curse too.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
other, because we're on, live radio. We're tied down to
The FCC regulations. FCC, right?
Yes. We're tied down to rules and regulations. Whereas on a live format, I mean, only regulation we got to worry about is YouTube or Twitch.
Yeah.
And the people I watch, as much as they curse, that is not an issue. So yes, I'm not here. I'm not shitting on Cluster Radio at all.
That's not their rule, so that's not in Cluster. It's just reality of broadcasting, and always always will be. And it's understandable why it's there. I get it.
Yeah.
But just like you said, just when you're talking about conversation, which is what you're good at, what you want to do for your goals. Conversation, does involve some blue language sometimes, especially with emotion. And I just can't wait to retire ham biscuits. Just there's so many times.
Ham biscuits are retired today. I mean, we're not in Cluster today.
Because I know, like anyone on that show, both you and I have got caught short. Where like we start doing the Yosemite Sam, like,
right.
And that's because an F-bomb was coming, and we caught ourselves before it happened, and we had just relearn how to talk.
Yeah. So for me, that's why I don't know why I didn't hit that early on, but it's whatever because it's on YouTube too. But
we need interns.
Yeah, I am going to need interns. Yeah, because I'm really trying to build out my entertainment business. That's what I really want to do. Like I want to travel with it too, because I love talking to people and I love asking questions that people typically don't ask during interviews. Because I like to hear people's like personal side of things. Like, who was it? Somebody's story. Like I was watching this couple on Instagram, and they were talking about how they made it from like rags to riches, but they never went into detail like where they were at. Like the guy was like, he came from the project, but I'm like, okay, where did you come from? Like what projects and what area, what state? I'm like, I want to hear all those things before I hear like, okay, this is where I am now. I'm making these millions of dollars. This is what you can do or what you should be doing. And all that stuff sound good, but like, who was it we had on? Greg from Derek Automotives.
Yeah.
And that's like, I want to hear when people would listen to my show, people coming to my show, I have a guest on, I want to take them back to the beginning and bring them all the way back up to today.
Right.
So that way, to me, that's what I think inspires other people. So you're not just seeing, the cake and what the cake looks like now and how beautiful it is and how delicious it might look. I want you to see the whole mixing process and the ingredients and shopping for the ingredients and making sure you got the right stuff and the failures that came along with it before you were able to perfect what the end result was.
Absolutely. It's instead of showing the finish line, you're showing all the work it took to race the race.
Right. And I'm going to do the same thing with this too. I mean, because I plan on vlogging this as well too, as I build it out. But I think that helps out especially with the live studio audience. And then like people that's on virtually as well too, because it gives people the motivation to see what it takes to actually build out anything. I don't care if you're becoming a president of a college. I mean, where did you start from to become a president of college?
Yeah, you weren't born there. Yeah, it's like there was some work involved.
Yeah, it's a lot of work involved. Yes. It's a lot of no's too. And then, I don't care if you're running for office. It's like, okay, what did you do before you even decided to run for office? What job did you working in? And all of that process that comes along with that. And I think you can get that from a radio show, but like you said earlier, you're limited to time. So in my case, my segment was an hour, but technically speaking, it was only 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes.
Right.
Because you got to be off before the next person comes on, which means you're really tied down to that clock. And I'm not going to hold anybody for 2 hours, but I'm like, if it does get to where the conversation is really good, I can ask the audience, hey, do y'all mind hanging out a little bit longer? It may go beyond the hour and a half. The hour and a half I may have planned for it.
I would say like that's by far the most restrictive element of the previous format, and it's understandable because you have a schedule. It's not fair for you to clog up 2 hours. You have two guys or have their own show at 7:00. So like,
yeah, that's ready to go.
So that's fine. And again, but it's when you're talking about the free form conversation, which is kind of like the ones with what I'm interested in, what you're interested in as well, is like when you have a conversation with Greg, for example, dude, an hour is just not enough.
No, I mean,
You know?
clearly that might be the time frame for the guests as well too. But I will
Right.
also make sure that any guests that have come out, I'm gonna say, hey, can I get you for at least 2 hours? I'm not gonna say it's gonna take the full 2 hours,
Right.
but can I get you for 2 hours? That way, if the conversation gets really good and I haven't got all the questions out, or somebody else that might be asking the question, you haven't answered theirs, that we can at least get all the questions answered.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like with any interview, you're a nerd. I think when nerd power unite.
Absolutely.
Um, and the thing is, like when I'm watching like any kind of show, like I've got a list of questions in my mind I want to ask the dude. I don't care if you're watching whatever show you're watching, whether it be Neil deGrasse Tyson or MythBusters, whatever it is. I have a question about something. Like, and your job, Antonio's job right now, like when you have a guest on, is to ask as many lucid questions as possible. So you really flesh out the story of the guest. But you
Right.
never know. It's not, it's not just you or even me if I'm in the room, where like there might be other questions we haven't considered that are completely valid that fleshes out that story even more. Like you never know what those nuggets are.
Right. And like I said, that's really what's gearing me towards what made me decide on wanting to do just that. Because it's no different than like who does it? They're traveling. Gail, I can't think of Gail's last name, Oprah's best friend. She does a traveling show, and she's had, First Lady Michelle Obama on there and a couple other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And she packs out an arena.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I mean, ultimately, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's other stuff I'm working on, but that's really what I'm passionate, because I like talking to people and I like hearing people's stories. Like, I mean, I think everybody has a story to tell, and it's not just for famous people either. I mean, I don't care who you are. Like, if you've overcome something or a challenge, and you beat that out, and now you're doing a lot better than what you were before, I want people to hear that story.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. It's like what was the show? It was like Dirty Jobs, right? It was a show where like you never know what life is like as just like even a police officer or a fireman. You don't understand like you see them show up in the fires and what are they, the training, all the like the visceral, the muscle that goes into any job.
Right.
And everyone has a job like that, but you don't understand what it's like to be a bartender or anything like this. It doesn't have to be the president of an automotive company, which is a fascinating story. But and especially that one was fascinating because he's talking about also all kinds of sociological innovation. But also these stories are universal, and so it's cool to flesh those things out, for anybody, as long as it's interesting and has a good point.
Right. I mean, because I would love to. I mean, is talking to people that's becoming a school teacher. Like, what inspired you to want to become a school teacher? Because I couldn't do it, because I would choke some of the kids out. So it's like, what keeps you going into a classroom every single day?
As a teacher, I'm like, can't wait for dodgeball day. Like,
right. Right. Because I definitely could not do it. Like, somebody told me that a long time ago. They said, why don't you get into because I'm in the IT, why don't you get into teaching? I said, I cannot teach young people. I barely can teach adults. I can't teach young people.
I tell what you just said. Like, I mean, I was a supplemental instructor in the college when I just graduated, and so that was good because you're dealing with near adults,
right,
like teenagers, and so like you have a way of getting through the BS. Be like, hey, dude, like we were here to fucking work. Like, go screw. Like right. Go get out. Like, go away. You can actually just go away. I can't imagine like what you're saying. Like, all power to the world. They need all the support, high fives everywhere. Good for you for being a teacher. But actually, that's funny. Like as you're saying, like taking the show on a road, that'd be just a phenomenal like road show. Let's just talk to teachers in Georgia, New Jersey, Ohio, Alaska, California, and see what are the differences in that job.
Right.
That alone would be fun, interesting.
Yeah, because it's like you hear so many stories about, and we be talking about teachers now, but how teachers. Because I mean, they had a big. What is it? Was it Gwinnett? They had
Gwinnett.
Yes, it was Gwinnett. They had a huge walkout in Gwinnett. And that was because they were tired of how they were being treated and how they were getting paid. The kids were being very disrespectful towards them. And I can see that 100% because you see all the time. They post videos online. They're trying to fight with the teachers. They're throwing stuff at the teachers, cursing at the teachers. They can't get the back of the school system because if the teacher do anything wrong, if they say anything out of line, they're automatically fired.
We can go down the teacher rabbit hole if you want. That is fascinating. That may be a good show we should have like after some reflection. That'll be a good opening show. But there's also like I've considered that where I have a bunch of friends of mine who are teachers, and just how now it's not just the job. The job itself, no offense, teachers, it sucks. I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
it does. You got
Wait,
to
all
be
right,
passionate
so
about it.
like, and there's a passion to it. You're underpaid, and I totally appreciate it. Like just like it's a 6 in the morning to 7 at night job with almost no breaks in between. Stress, up the eyeballs, and then you're getting furloughed if there's no money. You're the first one to get furloughed. No administrative support.
Right.
All these things are amazing to me. And then never mind, like there's violence in schools. What about that? What do you worry about if little Timmy brings a knife? Oh God, like.
Then you got school shootings going on now too.
And you can be fired. And then like my favorite, like that's why I was like even thinking, because I'm coming from the state of New Jersey, which has unions, teacher unions, and
Right.
versus the state of Georgia does not. What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean that would. Yeah, I mean, that would be a good show. Go on the road with.
So, but that's like I said, that's a long conversation that we probably get prepped for. But yeah, that's. I mean, as far as going back to what you're saying, as far as the new format, that sounds exciting, man. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate people want to come along for the ride because certain people have reached out and said they want to help out too and try to help build up the show a little bit more because they like the way I interview people, and I appreciate that. So I'm like, whatever anybody can do to help out, I'm all appreciative for. I will be telling this story. I mean, I'm already on YouTube right now, and I will be telling this story, from beginning to the end, so you all can see the process with it, and then how everything pans out because it's gonna happen. Yeah. So it'll be happening the first part of January. So it's deciding on what conversation I want to have. And I think I might, because of the walkout single in that county, I think I might do, because I got a couple of friends as school teachers. I mean, help my best friend, the president of a college. Yeah, that might be the first show when coming into January, like the beginning of the new year, like how can we tackle some of those things and what message? Because then it's the first of the new year, you got the new people coming in that just got voted into office. So what can we do to push policy to help benefit teachers because they're the first ones to get cut? Yeah. But yeah, that's the format I want to go in. And that way too, like even in that aspect of it, like since we on the same thing, we start talking about teachers. If guests have a question on what they're seeing in the classroom and they can ask that same question because, you go to a school board, it's just the school board people that's there. And nobody goes to parent-teacher conferences, even though they should.
Well, I'll be honest.
They should, but they don't.
If you want to get depressed, go to a school board meeting. Oh my God, I've been to a bunch of those in Gwinnett County.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Like, oh God.
Yeah. And that's one thing I won't have now. I will put my foot down on there. Like we got to have a civil conversation. Because I don't do yelling in my regular life. I'm for damn sure not going to be doing the yelling on my own show. That's a live show. So I'm like, and I'm willing to talk to anybody. I don't care. I don't care how you feel. Even if you come in with the BS of they're teaching CRT, I'm willing to have a grown folks conversation on how they're stupid and ask the questions of where are you getting this from and what makes you believe that? And then you actually have the teachers behind me that's saying that shit is not legit.
It's, that's the main thing is having, one thing I've said in my life is that, like I've always been pro thinking, I know a lot about everything, a master of none, right? And so like
jack of all trades, master of none, right?
And so which is no one is an expert of everything, is a master of anything, of everything. Right. So like I'm not a teacher, so I can't imagine what it's like going through that, the daily grind thing we're talking about. So it'd be interesting for me to learn, like, all right, but defend the stuff that I have an opinion, break that opinion. And it's breakable. It is. That's one thing. I might have an opinion on whatever topic it is, but I'm also acknowledge the fact that I'm probably not the foremost expert in whatever topic we're talking about. Hey, all right, like change my mind. I'm open to that. That'd be great.
And it could be about, it could be about anything. Because like even at Kit Labs, it's a nerd space. So you have people that have a specialization in coding and blockchain. You have people that does mobile app development. What else they do? They do a ton of. One of the guys that I just found out, he's a venture capitalist. So he invests in small business, small tech companies to help build them up. So, again, those are conversations I like to have. And you're limited to that on now podcasts, it can go along forever. Right. But the problem with podcasts is people got a short attention span. So I cap people's listening hours out too. They say that on average 30 minutes, I cap it out at an hour. I don't know. Now, if it's a live show, I think that's a little different.
That's they talk about algorithms. Then you look at the mother of all podcasters. He goes 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So like I think I think people underestimate the attention span. I agree, but like there's truth to it. I mean, I know my YouTube. I'll get lost on like a puppet video, whatever it is. 2-minute puppy videos, and just running around. Well, that's everybody.
Right.
But for conversations, like that's why again that's another conversation. But like where I feel like cable news is dying because for the history of cable of all news, like it was. I remember seeing this like, all right, like they have a guest on, all right, how would you solve race relations in this country? You've got 5 minutes, go. Like, okay, well, that's absurd.
Yeah.
And they're all guilty of it,
And you never can answer the full question because they're cutting you off asking more questions.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, I cut the commercial. We're all out of time. Like, and that's just the reality of the format. That's fine. Whereas I think there's a home for these conversations that you're talking about for sure. And that's why there's you can have these rich conversations about like these subjects that may seem heady, but the reason why you were like one of the reasons why I'd say you're doing this is also to break down these heavy, almost I guess call it nerd concepts, dense subjects, and so this way the layman can have an appreciation and consume what's actually going on. Our conversation with Greg was a perfect example of that, where that's kind of intense science in there, but we're able to break it down to the average person to see what impact they would have on their lives,
Right. And that's what I miss about that, because it's like you really I couldn't get to the deep. I couldn't get into deeper questions because I was limited on time.
Right. Absolutely.
So, that's where we're going, especially where I'm going with the show, and I may keep the same title. I have no idea. New year, new beginnings. That's what I say. I tried out one thing, it didn't work. I mean, well, it worked, but I want to do something different.
Well, yeah, you have a vision.
Yeah.
There's
everything else I'm doing, that's not going to stop. I'm still podcasting. I'm still streaming video games and stuff. Hell, I might play a video game tonight. But as far as like the live radio show, yeah, I want to do that a little differently.
Yeah, I get it. And also you're raising the entertainment factor. That's the thing too. These conversations, like I said, they're not to be so dense that they're boring or you're lecturing, but you have like more conversational, more entertaining, and you can do that with a live audience, especially.
And the guests I have on, like I would never have on like pre-programmed guests. Like if you can't answer a straight up question without having been briefed on it, you're not going. My show is not for you. Like I hate that 100%. Like who was it that wanted to come on my show? Oh, I'm not even. I'm good at saying people's name. I'm not going to say his name. It's clear as the guy just said his, but he wanted to come on, and no, he never did. No, he never did, because I was like, no. He wanted me. He was running for office, and he wanted me to send over a list of questions to his campaign manager. And this was before, and he had already agreed to doing a show, but then afterwards, he was like, he wanted me to send the questions over, and I'm like, I understand it to a T, because you don't want anybody submit any gotcha questions. But I was like, so I told him, I said, well, I understand what you're saying. I said, but my thing is, I like to ask. I don't do gotcha questions. I don't set people up. I don't care if I don't hate anybody, but I don't care if I don't like you coming onto my show. I would never make you look bad, because I don't want to cast out any bad energy. And I was like, so even if you don't believe that, even if you think I'm just telling you that, I got 90 episodes that you can go back and listen to hear my interviews with people and hear how I asked the question. So I was like, so if I don't want to give you a list of questions, because you might say something that I might have a question to that I didn't have it pre-planned.
Follow up, yeah.
So, and he didn't want to do it. He wanted to get trained and prep for it. And I was like, well, I guess you're just not for my show. Because I like having real. And that segment wasn't even keeping it real politically. That segment was real talking conversation. That was on my podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so if you can't, the whole premise of real talking conversation is to have bar talk, real talk conversation. You and I sitting at the bar, we done had a couple of drinks, and we're gonna be cautious of what we're saying, but we still gonna say whatever, because we're just trying to get our point across, and just we're trying to get all the knowledge of our head, get it out so everybody else can hear it. It's just a real conversation.
And I'm throwing a little shade to a guy that I've never met. I don't know the circumstances of.
Oh, you know who he is.
Joke anyways. It sounds like a guy that wants to go on hot ones, but I really don't like. I'm not gonna have any hot sauce.
Right.
Like, well, no, yeah, that's the point. Like that's like. But also, I'll backtrack and I'll defend the guy at the same point because that is not weird. That's not strange at all. Like,
No.
and it's not left, right, or center, doesn't matter. And it's understandable because of what you said. Like, it was with interviews, usually there's a pre-interview on that because kind of like we mentioned earlier, lawmakers love them or hate them, they're not experts at everything.
Right.
And so it's not even a controversial subject. If you ask them a question, they may very well may not know, and that's reasonable, but they can't be caught off guard. And that's what they're defended against. And so it is fairly standard when they go into an interview, they have an idea of the questions. So it's not as so for anyone who's out there who's like thinking that's crazy.
No, because even
somewhat normal, but for your show, they should know better. And that's where you just say, you did the right thing. Say, this probably isn't the show for you. And that's it.
Yeah, because the show I do with Atlanta Technical College for Atlanta Tech Talks, they have the people we have on, they're like executives. So they have to have, questions already presented so the board can approve of it because they're representing the entire corporation. And not those I understand because that's what it is. You're there. In this case, with the school, you're there to talk about how you're working with the school, some of the stuff that you're doing, how you got to that point, and then what you're going to be doing going forward. So those they have to be approved before they can even come on. But like when it comes to my show, like I said, my show is it's street conversation, it's real talking conversation. It's just us just sitting down one-on-one. I don't care if it's at a barbecue or whatever. I like those because to me, those are the most honest conversation that you can have with anybody. But I would never do anything now. That's just me and my personality. I would never ask a question to put somebody on the spot to say something that would set them up and make them look bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like that's, as the job is, and I agree with this, the way you're going about it is your goal is to make the guests look good, no matter who they are.
Absolutely. I don't care who you are.
There's that also, that's there's also you want other guests. So the more you do that, the better that is. And so like, even if you inadvertently say something, ask a question like, oh, they don't know, like then you have the skills to just, blast past that. So make them look good. Or don't worry about it. You can just move on to the next thing. And there are verbal ways. And, once you start paying attention to broadcasters where you're watching Old School by Johnny Carson to David Letterman to, any interview show on CNN to Lester Holt, you've seen them do that. You've seen this happen. And people don't remember it. The audience doesn't realize it. And so, but you have the skills to do that. So that's kind of like, as long as you're laying that the groundwork, then you're fine.
Right. So, and that really was not the topic of tonight. That's the format of the show. We get to talking about other stuff. And I really want to talk about, where I was planning on going with the actual show itself. And it doesn't matter how many people are watching right now, because I don't think it's only like 2 or 3 watching right now. It's just because this video going to always exist on the use of Tube.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just because we're in the entertainment capital. Hell, it's Atlanta, and all the movie studios, everybody's coming here too. So, I want my own show, and I've been doing it for 2.5 years now. They have 100-something episodes, and that's on the podcast. That's not even including the radio. I've been on a radio show for a year, and I've been streaming, like playing the games and stuff for about a year. I paused for a little bit because it got to be overwhelming. But yeah, so I've been doing online stuff.
A legitimate content creator, yes.
Yeah, for, a little bit over 3 years. Well, 3 years now, a little bit over 3 years now. So that's why I really wanted to bring it up, because typically you all see, because I didn't even make a post on my social media today. Typically you'll see me, hey, it's Tuesday. Y'all know what time it is. It's 6 p.m. Time for Keeping It Real Politically on atltalks.com. And it's on iHeartRadio. Make sure y'all tune in, make sure. And I'm going to have an app, though. I'm going to get an app created for the show as well. Because not just my show, anybody else that want to come on whose stuff I'm producing.
Yeah.
Because I plan on producing some. Well, people have asked me to produce some of their stuff. So
cool.
Their stuff will be posted on there as well, too, on the app.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's good. Have a go-to place for the content. Now, I do have one. I would say that we'll worry about the new show later. I think we've done a lot of that.
Yeah,
right?
we beat it down.
And we beat it down pretty good.
Beat it down.
But so what you brought up a question to me earlier this afternoon about what happened in well, this is in Europe, right? So what's lay out the scenario? What's going on here?
So we've been seeing a lot of data breaches take place over the past, 10, 20, it's almost 2 decades. We've been seeing data breaches happen all the time. Now, what we've never seen, because John, we were talking about the topic for today, and this is when I was swirling around in my head about whether you want to do the show or not. But like, even if we did do the show, I wouldn't mind talking about this. Even if it's not even his John's specialty, he still could have an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was for an Albanian, the government, and what happened was they were exposed. They got hit twice with 2 cyber attacks, and the first time, they took the L. And they called themselves doing some patches and some other stuff should have been done, but then it happened again. Now, the second time, the U.S. got involved, and the U.S. helped them to U.S. and I think it was Israel helped them to figure out it was Iran's staging the attack on them. And so they was highly critical Iran. They pulled away from having relations with them. They pulled all the people from out of the embassies over in Iran. And Iran hit them. In the midst of them doing it, Iran clapped their cheeks again. And this time, as opposed to them getting even more pissed off with Iran, getting because they check people at the soccer game. I'm sorry, at the football game.
Oh yeah, so I have a love-hate relationship with the World Cup.
Yeah, so especially this recent one.
Yeah.
So Iran hit them again. And as opposed to them getting mad at Iran doing it, because they already know they did it, they got mad at, was it 2 guys? 2 guys that was working in their data center, because I know exactly where it's at, working in their data center. And they got pissed off with them because they didn't update the software, so which allowed them to get struck with another breach again. Now, there are a lot of reasons, because even the article says it, but there are a lot of reasons why you would not necessarily want to upgrade. You should, but you shouldn't. But what happened with them was now they're trying to prosecute. They are not trying to. They're going to prosecute them and lock them up for 7 years.
Right. So to recap, and this is Albania, right?
This is Albania, yes.
So Albania had their computers were breached. They had a security breach. Or Iran did it.
Iran did it.
This is undisputable. This is undisputable. Iran did it. They did it once, and then they did it again. We figured out Iran did it. And it boils down to a couple of basic IT workers, that were working in, security services, that didn't do the updates for the software. Right. That's just to boil down. And because they didn't update the software, Albania has now arrested these IT workers. And I think that's like they already have like a sentence. They had sentence guidelines of about 7 years in prison. Like they have not been sentenced yet. But I don't think. And so I think the question that you're posing on the floor is, what is this
should a worker be penalized?
Right? Yeah. Is this penalization worth it? Is this penalty worth it?
Right.
That's interesting. To me, I was like, I was on the phone with my sister and I just let her know about like this thing, and she immediately had opinions. This is perfect what we're doing now. I told her, like, well, that's why we have a 30-minute show. We can figure out where we stand on these things. Like that's the thing, like where if it's intentional, right? Let's pretend these guys were legit, like they were Iran sympathizers, and they said, "Oh, if I just don't do my job, they can get data." I think we can agree. Go to jail.
Absolutely.
But I think what we're talking about is someone who just like didn't update their software for whatever reason. We don't know what the reason is either. And like you alluded to, even not being myself, who's not, that's not necessarily my primary bailiwick is computers. But I also understand that, like, updates happen. We all have the cell phones, and so that says update necessary. Not every it's not necessarily a good thing to update automatically every single time.
No.
And if you're in IT, which Antonio, you are an expert.
Yeah.
You can tell us that flat out, like, let's look at this update first, what it does, and then evaluate whether we should or should not do it. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Right. So, which is why you saw a lot of people that was working off of Windows, they stayed on Windows XP. After you had Windows 10 come out, you had Windows 11. I think we're on Windows 11 right now. But Windows XP it worked. I mean, they had ironed all the bugs out, and they didn't want to upgrade to a new operating system because any new operating system that you install potentially presents another bug that could allow somebody, like they call it a 0-day attack, to breach your systems again. Which is why a lot of people that work that's working in music or to do film and production, they don't always, and they work off of Mac computers, they don't always update to the new Mac operating system, because typically what happens is, again, if they upgrade to the Mac operating system, it causes, now you have a compatibility issue or firmware issue with the hardware that they're using. So it's like, I don't want to upgrade until you ironed out all the bugs to make sure everything is compatible and it can communicate as it should, without me having to go through and do any like patches or whatever to fix everything up. Now, had that been done,
I will just point out, you just point out a quality of life for a thing,
yes,
that I didn't consider, that's important too. So never mind security, the quality of life, there's reasons to it. But go ahead.
Right. So, and that's with anybody. Like if you have something that you're used to working off of, like I'm, even like right now while I'm streaming this, I have a Sony camera. Y'all can see it going in and out sometimes. But you could have to where you upgrade the operating system and now it's not compatible with the firmware on this camera. Because even now, like I have my MacBook, you can see one of the MacBooks in the background, it works off Apple Silicon, the new Apple Silicon, and the old MacBooks work off of Intel processors. Well, there's a streaming card that you can use to stream cameras through, video games or whatever, to go on and broadcast from the computer. It's not compatible with Apple Silicon. So if you upgraded your computer, if you upgraded your computer, but you had the streaming device and you're trying to work and make it work, because I had mine before I upgraded my laptop, and I was trying to figure out why the hell is it not working, until I finally looked at the details of the firmware on the device, and it said it's not compatible with Apple Silicon, and they don't know when they ever make it compatible with Apple Silicon.
Right. And this is the type of thing I think the average layman can understand.
Right.
Like computer plug-in device. What the hell is it not working? Immediately go to rage. Go 0 to rage. Whereas all right, so we're talking about that now. We're talking about so that there's a list of reasons why you don't update things. And also, I would say, would it not be true? Again, the layman talk. The minute you put in a new operating system, it's never more susceptible to penetration, right?
Yeah.
So it'll never be as unsecure ever as the beginning, the first week or two of actually putting in new software. Is that correct?
Right, and that's why I say, a lot of people, they hunger for a 0-day attack, because that means before you can issue a patch out, I've already found the breach, which means I've already dropped in my malware, my virus or whatever to keep a port open. But you don't know that because I breached it. And if nobody found that loophole that was in the software, then I got my access to, which is the same thing that happened with them. Like even with my company, I put it like this, even with my company I work for, I'm not gonna say their name, you can never upgrade to the latest operating system. You can only upgrade to the one before the latest operating system. Yeah. Because we've already hashed out any bugs, we've already done firmware updates, we've done like software updates, we make sure everything is integrated together and it works as it should. And that's why, if you can upgrade anything, it's gonna be the one before the newest release. And it's the same thing in your personal life. Like I do it all the time because I know how to troubleshoot my systems. Now, certain things, they do piss me off. Like I said, with the streaming card, the capture card, it wasn't compatible. I didn't know that until I was trying to, because you would think it's just a capture card. Like, why would it not work? Silicon, I don't care if it's an Intel processor. I don't care if it's an AMD processor. These are different Intel, different CPUs. Sure. Or I don't care if it's Apple Silicon. I don't even care if it's Google's new Tensor chip, because they have their own little silicon too. To me, and even me as an IT guy, I'm thinking, man, this is plug and play. Like, why would something like that not necessarily work? Like, I'm sorry, it's just a capture card. You just plug, because I'm like, it's just a little box, and you plug a HDMI cable on one side and HDMI in and out on the other side. To me, it should work, but everything has firmware. Right. And if the firmware is not compatible with the new operating system, it's not going to work. And that's why I can see why the guys working in that IT department didn't update it.
Yeah, that's the point. Like the point of our is this the exercise is trying to defend the workers. Like there are reasons why not to do it. Like let's like I said, even never mind pretend. All right, like if they did it maliciously, where they say they knew Iran was going to do this. All right, well we'll do it. We won't do it, and this way they can get stuff and whatever. Okay, then go to jail. All right, but pretend that's not the case. There are reasons not to do it. Whether it be just like I said, quality of life. to even security reasons. There's a many reasons why not to do it. All right. So iron those out. What if now let's go to like what probably was, and again, complete speculation. What if it was just flat out complacency? They forgot. They didn't do it. Like like they were supposed to do it. It was the right thing to do, even for the computers. This is the reason why there was a breach. Like right now they have. I mean, I believe it is official that the reason why they were breached, this particular update was not installed.
Right.
They were instructed to do the update. They didn't do it. Now we've already ironed out the fact that they didn't do the update for many. There's all reasons not to do it, but they were instructed. They got breached. The breach was because they didn't do it. Okay. What is going to jail appropriate?
No.
Right.
And then the other thing too is though, like a lot of us, not a lot of, all of us, we work off a ticketing system. So even if that was a policy, then where did it fall in line in queue to be done? Was it something that was immediately and they had to be done like right then and there, or did it say, the ticket is in? Once you get done with everything else, then you get to it.
Yeah, it's was it a priority? It was a frontline priority or not?
Right.
Like,
and there are a ton of variables, especially when it comes to IT stuff. Because it's like, how did you pin it down to just those two individuals? Because I'm like, you have firewalls. I'm like, you still have a ton of people working in the data center, and then you have people that create. So with firewalls, we have rule sets, and the rule sets determine, what's high priority versus what's low priority. And separate people actually create those. It's called a risk management system. Sure. Certain people actually manage those risk management systems that's outside of your typical hardware guys. So I'm like, so the guys working in the data center, they didn't do the patch, but where was it at in the risk assessment to tell me that I had to do it like right now? And then if that was the case, then why wasn't I giving it to it by at least my manager? Because my manager is liable too. Right. Why did my manager come to me and say, well, I need you to get on this and make sure this patch is done and it's updated?
That's a brilliant point that I didn't really consider until you started talking, when you talked about it. Like, say like Antonio in Jersey just went to jail for screwing up this IT thing. Bob, as our manager, told us to do it. And then Bob got, the original order came from up on high, and then this new policy comes down to Bob. Bob tells us to do it because that's the way it works in every business. Right. Your boss tells you to do something, you do it. That's what happened here. It doesn't matter. Right. They got a ticket, or Bob told them to do it. What about Bob? So exactly. Bob, why was Bob not checking to see if it was done? Right. Who was the guy that was just checking? Like, hey, listen, that thing's really important. It's on the list of things that has to get done. Was there not? Do they not have regular checks on completion assignments? Well, that kind of thing. So like, I understand. Like you said, like I hard believe that only two people did this. I think that's the only way it does it. But when it comes to checks, if you actually dig into it, like there are other people that are aware of this problem. Someone gave an order and didn't check on that order. If it's that important, shouldn't everyone know about this? And everyone dropped the ball.
Most corporations, especially working in IT departments, there's a ticket-based system, and that's just to make sure stuff is done. Yeah. And it's looking to see who did it, and then looking at the whole process behind what it took to get it done, so you can have not even inventory. What is it? A series of events to show once the ticket was created, who got a ticket first, who it came down to, who did the work, what work was done. Did you face any problems when you were trying to do the patches? Because we do have those problems too, where you're trying to install a patch and something prevents it from taking place for whatever reason. So, and then, like you said, even at the end of the day, if that wasn't done and it was a high risk scenario, well, then why wasn't the manager reprimanded for it? Why is him or her not facing jail time for it?
Absolutely. It's like it's like your example, or like simple examples like delivering a package, right? When every package, you go to like UPS.com on a package, like Jerry, got the package, scanned it in the office, handed off to Robert, who's on the truck. He scanned it. It's now on the truck. All right, he's taking the truck, he's going to the airport, and then Sarah scanned it at the airport, and then Frank at the airport scanned it, put it on the plane. Like there is always a chain of custody, like right. And so, like this way, if there's ever a screw up, like all right, Frank had an airport and then it stopped. Well, right. Where'd it go? Well, let's ask Frank. Like same thing here is that go to the chain of command from top down to the two guys, like everywhere there's a chain of like every single person was aware of this thing had to happen.
Right.
So there was multiple failures of the system here.
Yeah,
and
I
7 years.
to me, to penal, I mean, I get reprimanded. I mean, okay, you didn't do it right, whatever. Okay, that's fine. I get a write up for it, but jail time, I think that's the extreme.
It's national security. It is national, so it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think it does well to motivate people to get into this business. You need
hell no.
And so when you're saying if I make a mistake, I go to jail.
Yeah.
Whoa,
and that's the problem when it comes to cybersecurity professionals. A lot of people don't even take cybersecurity seriously. They say they do, but they don't until they get a breach, and then they get all the fines from the government for allowing a breach. Because Twitter about to get hit. Twitter got hit again. Yeah, so they're about to get hit up by the government because they just had another data breach.
Well, and also like these things, like we've all been there. I mean, I remember working for an organization where like they were changing email systems, right? And so we really need to go through your email system and delete your emails. I don't know a single person that does not have at least 1,000 emails in their inbox. Right. And so let me look at my thing right here. Yeah, I have 9,239. Just
my email. I used to keep my email clean. Now it's at 32,000.
Oh yeah, it just goes forever. So all right. So is it, how like this, these guys, we had a big meeting, organizational meeting. Guy came down listen, we're switching this thing. We really need everyone to delete the emails because otherwise it's going to take forever, and you will not have email for days. Right. So and I understand they're being forced, but no one gave. Again, the same thing. We didn't have email for a couple of days because no one gave a rest. Just deleting emails. I wonder this particular example where all right, how many times on my computer that I'm looking at right now have I seen you've got to update Microsoft Microsoft Office? I'll do it later. I think my record is 6 months or something.
Now I'm pretty good about my updates now because I don't worry about anybody hacking into my stuff. I just want to keep my stuff up to date. But I tell people all the time too when it comes to basic hacks. People say, "Oh, I think my computer banker." I was like, "You're not that important." I was like, "The only reason somebody would ever try to hack your computer is I'm trying to set up a bot network, and that's if I'm trying to stage a huge attack. But I'm not hacking into your computer to try to steal anything from you. There's easier ways to do that.
Unless you're getting a call from India, that sort of thing,
Well, yes, and there's a purpose behind that.
Yeah, and that's why they're actually doing it right in front of you, which is amazing. So actively.
Yes.
And so, but so I wonder how serious. Again, it's just another question. These guys are going to jail. Was this meter to give excessive importance? Hey, update the system. Did a boss literally just with a sandwich and a cup of coffee in his hands say hey, Jersey, Antonio, don't forget update the system, okay? I'm all right, got it. And it's whatever happened, we just forgot. It was just one of those things, and no one came back until all of a sudden there's handcuffs.
Yeah, and it's right. It's it still goes back to what you said, and what they're talking about in our article. It's what's my incentive now to actually? So you fired them, now they're going to jail potentially. What's my incentive to come and work for you?
Yeah,
because I'm if Iran is already attacking your system and China is malicious, China go after everybody. They don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm so the next breach that's take place, am I potentially going to jail? So now you and upper management, you all can figure that out.
Yeah.
You all can manage the firewalls and the data center yourself.
See ya. It's in the corporate world, right? There's this is a question that's good for anybody. I don't care who you are. In the corporate world, there's the security. The security is important, not just important, but very, very important. And so this same mistake can be made, right? So in the corporate world, what would you say? When just looking at this article and what they fucked up on, I can say that.
Yes, you can.
It's awesome. Score. And what they fucked up on was that, if this happened at the upper echelon of, insert vanilla corporations company, like that would be what, and they got breached by a rival company. Like there was like legit consequences. What would you say would happen in a company that you may or may not have worked for? Let's put that question as softly as I can.
What generally happens when it comes to breaches, they're fined by the FEC, FFA. Oh yeah, FEC.
So it's FEC, right?
Yeah, FEC. They're fined by the FEC because even in part of my job, I give you just part of my job. We have to, my previous job, we had to monitor the network for the entire the country, like literally the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
So we have it was funny too. Oh my God, it was funny. So we had this guy, he was doing a cutover in Detroit. And we were telling him, like, and again, this is why I said the process. And so before we can do a cutover, we have to have what is it called? It's like a work step. So you have to have gotten this approved to like 2 or 3 different entities, because if you cut anything, it can affect the entire network. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. And this is in telecom on top of it too. So we issued a work order. We were doing an upgrade. We're cutting over to a different line. Maybe it's not even secure, just a faster pipeline. But the guy did not read, the field tech. He didn't read the instructions. So what he did was he ended up going to a different, what we call a METSO, which is like a separate entity that all communication pipes go through.
Mm-hmm.
He went through the METSO and he cut the wrong line. And when he did this, and I kid you not, he took down literally almost all of Detroit. He literally took down all of Detroit.
Hey, listeners, don't forget, that's all it takes.
Yeah. It's bad. And I mean, it can happen in any corporation. Like it legitimately can happen. This is how you all don't know how stuff is like held together.
Oh yeah.
It's held together like with little duct tape. Because I mean, now in data centers, we do have backup servers. So in the event of a breach taking place and or what is it? A DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack, where they flood in one group of servers. We have backup servers, which is load balancing. So it'll shut down the main group and it'll push it over onto the secondary group. Now, what generally happens if people are smart and know about that, they got a secondary location, they flood both locations ultimately, which is what's been happening recently. They shut everything down.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to communications, it's like that to a degree. It is like that now because everything is IP based. But at this time, we were still migrating over into IP based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when he cut the line that went into I can't even think what they were. It's not Metso, but it fit into a big host of systems. And that site alone, like the main group, like just because it's the central office, it covered, I think it was like 400,000 people, 500,000 people.
So these 405,000 people, like what happened? They couldn't.
It was dead in the water. Like 911 didn't work. Like so E911.
No phones, no communication.
No communication whatsoever. No, nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
I'll emphasize exactly what happened.
Yeah, it did not work. So what happened once he did that? Everybody went to uproar. Like people were shitting bricks. It was like, what the hell just happened? And people in my office, we were all sitting on the bridge. So, and then, like I said, we monitor it. So we legitimately have a huge screen, so you can imagine a huge 30 foot screen, like multiple, like y'all see in the movies, like the crap you see in the movies. Yeah. Like we're monitoring all this stuff on the screen. And only thing you saw was like we're watching the tickets come in. Like you have one side that has the tickets, and then the main center is like a bunch of like the towers and stuff. Only thing you saw was tickets hit red. That means shit is bad. And once they hit red, it was like, why do we see so many red tickets coming in? And all of a sudden you start seeing the towers just start popping out. And then phone calls start coming in. I think the mayor called, the governor called.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, what the hell just happened? Man, this dude got fired so quick.
I feel bad for the guy.
But he didn't go to jail though. He got fired because he wasn't reading the work order. And that was now. I think he did get fined for it, but he didn't go to jail because he didn't read the work. So like stuff like that is serious. He didn't read the work order, and then because really what made it so serious was it affected 911 services.
Right. And emergency services are always, that's the thing. Like,
yes. And I had actually
people don't realize how many laws and things are involved with emergency services.
No.
Like, yeah.
And I've worked for so many critical departments. Like I worked for my previous, I actually was a manager of this group. One of my teams I managed was a switching group. This is before IP-based stuff, like I'm saying now. This is like the old Motorola cell phones that we had back in the day. So a part of my switch team, they actually handle like trunk services, and this is during the implementation of E911. So it's virtual 911 services. We had a guy, he was cutting them over. And he actually, I think he didn't go to jail for it, but he got fired immediately. So we were doing another cutover. Cutovers take place during maintenance windows. Maintenance windows, for y'all don't know, IT terms, maintenance windows is from 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And the reason is there's typically the dead hours that people are in bed sleep. And that's when we can go in and do any work. And we don't expect to have any traffic on the network until like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
As a night owl, that is when my internet goes out.
Yes, that's when Comcast does
2 to 4. My internet has gone out 7 times the past 3 weeks.
Yes, that's when they do upgrades, they do updates. It goes out in that time frame, unless it's like fiber stuff, and then they can push out minuscule updates, and it really won't affect your traffic. Like you'll see a drop, but it won't be too bad because you got high speed internet. But this guy in particular, during our early days of cutover, he did the same thing this other guy did, to where he mapped it to when I say map it, like he actually software based mapped it to a different set of servers. That legitimately took down, not regular people, it took down 911.
Yeah.
And when he took down 911 and he couldn't figure out, and he lost the commands, like he didn't realize because we were inputting so many commands, he didn't know where he had changed it up at. So they were down for about a good hour. And he got fired so quick.
Again, it's one of those things where like we're laughing about it and we have to laugh. Again,
yes. It wasn't funny then.
All Detroit gone dark. Okay.
It wasn't funny then.
I remember my sister when Hurricane Sandy in Jersey, and I was just laughing at how little she could do. All right, you just have to laugh at these tragedies. But it shows like that kind of thing where yes, they got fired, and it's like this close to being a crime, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it
wasn't intentional. Obviously, it was a mistake, but also it shows like we all have jobs, and like we can all make that stupid error.
Yeah,
and just that our stupid error doesn't affect all of Detroit.
No, no, I mean, it's when you're doing it, and so I can feel like those workers.
Yeah, I do.
So it's like when you're doing certain updates, like you really have to do your checks and balances and make sure before you hit enter,
right,
that you put in the right command, you put in the right IP addresses. Because you don't want to because if you mess anything up, even in the data center, if you unplug the wrong fiber optic cable and you don't know where it's going to, what's on the back end of it, you could take down a whole company.
Yeah.
So your original question was, what have I seen happen in the past? They get a fine. I mean, you have to pay the government for it. And I mean, that's about it. Right. I've never seen anybody go to jail. Right. Now, I have seen gross negligence to where people should have gone to jail and they didn't.
All right. Well, then that's important. That's interesting. It's like you put progress in, and we haven't talked about that. Well, again, the 2 guys in Albania, maybe they were complete fuck ups.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were completely they were useless. They really were. They were high bus boys in the cooler. They were like they're doing lipids and they weren't doing their job.
Yeah.
But their negligence was so egregious that they allowed Iran to penetrate the systems of their country. Is that jailable?
No.
Still no.
No.
I don't know. I'm going a couple different ways here. Like I'm not saying yes or no. I don't know, but
I'm saying no because I'm like, is regardless. So one thing you always learn, if people working in security, anybody can be hacked. I mean, I don't care how safe, secure you tell me your system is. Anybody anybody can be hacked. Plain and simple. If I put my intentions into I'm gonna breach your system, I'm going to breach your system.
Right. No,
so it's like I don't care how many patches you put in, I am going to breach. Because we just had a latest. So in my Discord, we talk about hacks and stuff, and one actually affected my company I currently work for now, which I'm not going to name the name, but it was 32 companies that got hit up, and they were they got in there good to where they actually were selling their passwords, the actual drives where stuff was located at, and other corporations were buying it. Like legitimately, other corporations was paying like $4 to $5 million for the entry into those systems.
Right.
My company was one of them.
That bought or
no, that got breached.
Oh,
so what happened in the breach was what generally happens. Your system can be secure, but if it's okay, let's say your house. So your personal house, you got an alarm system, you have cameras and stuff. So nobody can get in your house. Even if they do get in your house, you're going to see it happen, and the alarms and stuff going to go off. Now, you may have a brother or sister or your spouse or whatever. They don't value the system as much as you do, but they have access to your house. So they could come in one day thinking they're going to run in and grab something and leave the front door unlocked.
Yeah.
And so now your house is exposed. So in this case, what happened was a third party person had access to one of the corporation's systems. All of these corporations kind of work hand in hand together. So what they did was, they attacked him. They found out who this guy was. They followed him, got access to his VPN and access to his laptop and got access to his VPN. Thus, having access to his VPN, they had access to the entire network. So what they did, they got through his computer, upgraded his privileges, and started opening up doors across all these different corporations. And then once they open the doors up, they put in their malware and stuff, and then they started siphoning off the data, and now they got access to every system.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. So even with the two Albanian guys,
right,
they forgot to do a patch. Let's say they intentionally forgot to do, or they wasn't even thinking. They just was whatever. They was drunk, high, or they was chilling doing something else, and they just forgot to do it. Even if they didn't do it, Iran know how to play. Because we got Iran, so Iran had to learn from what we did to them. Iran has some serious hackers working with. It's a state-run hack company. So whether they did the patchwork or not, they would have got into the system.
Yeah, it's like you said, if you're we have the illusion security, right? And just if anyone who's motivated will penetrate any security system. Like you're talking about, my house with all I have all the alarms, everything's locked, and I don't even have a sister coming in. But if someone really wants my South Park DVDs, they'll figure a way in. They'll climb up the balcony, come in the side door, whatever. It's just a matter of motivation. With these guys, I guess it's just a matter of we're looking at face value. We're making a lot of speculation. What this is about? They found what the thought of exercise. Yeah. If it was just strictly from, like I said, their boss said, "Hey, go ahead and make that patch," and they walked away. Well, then no, nothing. I don't believe so. If it was like a stated priority, did these guys have repeated offenses? That's the thing that's unclear on this article too. Was it's unclear whether they were asked multiple times.
Right.
We were even threw shade at these two guys and their boss and all that. Perhaps their boss, we call him Bob because Office Space. Bob told them multiple times to get it done and it didn't get done. Multiple times. Maybe they were warned. They said, "Dude, guys, these are 5 things I need you to do, and one of them is this thing that you still haven't done. Gotta get it done." And maybe they were warned multiple times over the course of a year or whatever it was.
I still don't see jail time though.
I don't necessarily agree with the jail time, but I'm trying to defend it. Where I'm trying to figure out the scenario where jail time is warranted. All right. So if they're contacted by Iran and said, "Hey, just don't do this update," all right, you go to jail.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
so,
If you're working in collusion with them,
yeah,
then yeah, it's just, but I mean, you have to prove that. And in most cases,
that's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's hard because I mean, if they're doing it smart, you talking about they have burner phones, and then on top of it too, you don't know if they've threatened their family members that if they don't do it, they're going to cause harm to their family members, because that's happened before too. So it's like,
in order to catch someone doing espionage, you have to do like catch them in the middle. The hand is in the cookie jar at the same time,
right,
like, right there.
And in this case, they didn't have the information. You just said the U.S. helped them identify. U.S. and Israel helped them identify where it was coming from, and that's just by looking at source code. And then, but outside of that, they didn't put any more details. I mean, yeah, we're doing a lot of assumptions, but to me, at the end of the day, how the article is written, at most, they should just be fired.
I mean, fired is minimum. Like I said, it's the questions I have, or whether there was a lot of gross negligence, like, because we mentioned the email thing where you have 30,000, I have 9,000. I challenge anyone. I'll bet you cannot find a soul in your life that has less than 1,000 emails in the box, right?
I mean, I was like that. I mean, yeah, I used to be like that. I mean, because I made it. Who was it? I learned from somebody. It was like, when you're doing, it was a naval captain. He was like, clean out your stuff at the top of the day. And that's how I started my day off. Every morning I got up, I would clean out my inbox so everything was clean. But then I went on vacation. And
that's all it took, right?
Yeah, that's all it took. And once I saw 5,000, I was like, I'm not going through clearing out 5,000. And then it turned from 5,000 to 10,000, and I was sitting at over 37,000. I'm just like, I'm not. And truth be told, probably a lot of it is probably just a bunch of junk.
Oh yeah,
that I can just massively delete.
And now you're going the other way. Like mine's like near 10,000. Can't wait for that all the zeros to roll over. Like I'm driving a car.
Now I could go in there and delete it. I'm one of those people where I'm a pack rat when it comes to email, because I figure it might be something that I might need.
Yeah,
but I can go in there and select all and just hit delete, and I still wouldn't care.
Yeah, odds are almost everyone I know, like if you did that, like it freaks us all out. If you just did delete all, your life would not change.
Yeah, right? Because clearly it's not, because you sat there and racked up on the emails.
Right. So, and hell, but even if it was something important, you just said, hey, clean out my email box, I might have lost it. Sorry. But anyway, going back to these guys, like I just say, I think the conclusion is, I think we kind of come to a consensus a little bit.
Yeah,
where I don't think it's jailable. I think the jail de-incentivizes talent.
Right.
And so you want talent in these jobs, like I know, like just a small thing, side note, just one of my causes, like there's a fight to keep to throw out the weed test for CIA agents, right? There's all these cyber nerds want to work for the CIA, but they all smoke weed, and they're like, well, I'm not going to work for the CIA now. Like all the best computer nerds smoke weed, and just this is the way it is. Like, right, take the test off. Let's get them in there. It de-incentivizes like talent coming to for these very critical positions. I can see such a small scale, very specific scenario where jail is warranted, and we kind of highlighted those. Otherwise, unless there's like a list of reprimands or even a warning, like I can see that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you haven't done this.
Yeah.
You haven't updated the systems. If you don't get this done, you will be arrested. I get that too. Like if they were warned.
But then if that's a policy, I still wouldn't. I wouldn't work for anybody. If that's a policy, I wouldn't work for anybody like that. I mean, I would still do my job, but I don't want that shadow or that cloud hanging over my head to where I might get overwhelmed doing something else and forget to do something else that potentially might cause me to go to jail.
It's even the two examples with the guy in Detroit where, like, I feel for that guy, man. Fireable offense. I know we all know what he did. It was just one simple thing that we all do in our job.
He wasn't paying attention.
And he
took down half a city.
Detroit's gone dark. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, he said.
We all know it's just a simple, goofy mistake. And I feel for that guy.
But what made it even worse, to get back on him, what made it even worse was he actually went home because he didn't realize what he had did. And I was like, oh my God. So, because I mean, part of work orders, once you do a work order, you're supposed to make sure everything is restored back to normal.
Yes.
I mean, once you do a cutover, you're supposed to make sure everything, like all the traffic is good. You just can't snip, patch, and then just be out. Yeah, you can't. You're not supposed to do it at all.
Like even the cable guy's gotten good about that. Where like the cable, he waits till all the channels are working, and then he leaves, right?
Yeah. This guy, he was like snip.
Oh yeah, like
he got in his truck and he drove off.
Yeah,
and we were trying to call him. It was like, dude, the hell are you at? Oh, it was hilarious.
It's one of those, again, it's so bad it's funny. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, in my department, man. So, and the reason I found out about it because the people that was working on it was there when I came back, and I was like, "What the hell are y'all still doing here?" It was an emergency; they couldn't go home.
Oh man, the one thing I can relate to was I remember I was working in a bar. Actually, I was bartending, running a restaurant, and I had a day shift, and I left, and it's just a bar. So I remember this girl, Rachel. Her name was Rachel. Doesn't matter who it was. Sorry for everyone named Rachel. It's not you. Like, but I just happen to remember her name. And she had 2 margaritas, and no big deal. And then like I left, and my shift was over 4:00. I actually went to my other restaurant. And I get a call like 30 minutes later. What did you do to Rachel? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, dude, she's throwing up and doing all this stuff. What did you serve her? I'm like, nothing, man. Just 2 margaritas. Like,
right.
But I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I'm sorry. It sucks to be you. Like, she tipped me great. But I left a real big bag of ass for the next guy. And so this guy in Detroit, I can just imagine this, like, you're walking into that shit show. That's just terrible.
All right, man. So as we wrap it up, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for the new guests that will potentially see this because it's on a YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm excited for what's to come.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Sounds new chapter. Like, I like the idea of like defining what you want, and I think I like the format you're talking about. That's definitely my kind of show. That's for sure. You know, like I said,
and I appreciate you being long on the journey too, because you've been here for past, what is it, month, 2 months now?
Oh shoot, about 4 months, I think. Honestly,
has it been 4?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dang,
it's been a while, man.
So yeah, I appreciate you being here because it's kind of hard to keep people consistent.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I've asked you this before. Oh yeah, like September. Shoot, I think August. What doesn't matter. And it's something I've talked about. I give you credit for because I watch radio. If you can do radio, just do any show by yourself. That's amazing. Having someone to go back and forth of, like, that's a skill. It's a skill that's beyond me. That's for sure. And so I give you credit for even being able to do that.
Oh man, what are you talking about? You're a talker.
I mean,
you can talk to yourself. I hear kids say that, like, when I'm streaming, I play video games. I have fun playing with like the NPCs. And for y'all that don't know what NPC is, it's a non-playable character on video games. And so I see it like this. I don't care if it's one person watching. I don't care if it's 100 people watching. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to be the same person that if it's 1 versus 2,000.
Yeah.
So if you're going to come on and you're going to be entertained, it's not going to be just me, with a blah attitude, bland voice, Mr. Dry Eyes himself. I'm gonna be having fun. I don't care what it's, and I'm gonna be passionate about it too, especially if I'm talking about politics. I'm gonna be very passionate about it. But yeah, so like I said, I because you got a personality too. I mean, you could do it. I appreciate you being long on the journey. So
sorry, I just looked it up. So August 2nd was the first one.
Jesus Christ, I did not realize it's been that long.
You're welcome.
Wow. I'm very old. I'm forgetful.
That's all right, man. It's all right. But like I said, I think I agree with you. Like, when it comes to, I like conversation. The thing is, I like conversation. I couldn't. I talk about myself, and I all of a sudden get very monosyllabic, and just like I like candy.
Candy is good.
Candy's good.
It's been an candy. So, you want to have a final thought, John?
No, like, I'm just more kudos to you. Cheers. I guess this will probably be the last show for the year, right? I'm guessing.
No,
may not be, right? What time is it?
No, I'll do one next week on the 20th.
Oh, 20th. Okay.
Yeah,
I can be around for that because then I'm going to Jersey actually. So I'm going to Jersey from
Jersey, going to Jersey.
That's right, man. I know. I like to keep my jokes right on the nose. So I'm going. I got my sister, my niece, and my nephew out there. So I'll be jovial and high five the kids, beat the, and by the way, just for those of you who are uncles and aunts, I'm very pro beat their kids' ass in Candyland. Got to teach them how to lose.
I never
So
heal
no
back on
mercy.
my boys.
Yeah.
I never heal back. I'm like,
Yeah.
you gotta learn this lesson of life.
Yeah, so but it's that time, and it's a happy, I guess, just in general, happy holidays. Celebrate what you want to celebrate. I'm a big Festivus fan myself.
Yeah.
I know we have one of my favorite days is the solstice. We have 7 days before the days get longer, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, congratulations, Antonio, and I'll be here for next week too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's talking about that. That's like the weirdest thing, dude. We was out in California. Oh my God. Even in Vegas.
Yeah.
4:30, the sun is setting. I'm like, what is it? I said, is this the end times? I was like, why is the sun setting at 4:30? And like come 5 o'clock, 5:15, it's pitch black outside. And I'm like, I should be in bed. I'm like, I'm feeling like an old man. I should be in bed somewhere.
I remember that from being in Jersey, because Jersey is so far east of Atlanta. And so the sun set at 4:30.
That is crazy to me.
Yeah, and the sun would rise. So it's actually sun's later in Atlanta than it does in New Jersey. It does. But the thing that screwed me up, I remember when I went to Vegas, was, again, I'm a college football fan, and I remember like, oh my God, college football starts like 9, 10 in the morning. How do you do that? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I looked like a terrorist, but I realized that at like 9:30, and I was like, I woke up wherever I woke up in Vegas, and then you're trying to run to the sports book, and
yeah, Vegas never sleeps. I thought that was weird too. I was like, y'all don't like this is like zombies out here.
That's the whole thing. I like the world. I've lived on the East Coast my whole life, and just the whole world to me is East Coast time, and the world is on East Coast time. It's just 2 hours or 3 hours earlier, right? Yeah. So if you're in California, things are happening normal time, but it's happening 3 hours earlier, right?
Over here, yes. Yeah, over here, yeah.
That's crazy. That's just great. It's a retraining of the brain.
Yeah, so we go
how to function.
Yeah, because you're going back in time. Like even the flight was weird too. So the flight was at 12, but we didn't land.
Well, what time?
12 Pacific time.
Okay.
But we didn't land in Atlanta until 7:35. So people was like, God dang, that's like a 6-hour flight. No, it's not. It's 3 hours. You're going forward in time. Right. So I was like, no, it's not a 6-hour flight. It's only three and a half hours. Yeah. I was like, this is how weird our world works when you're going from one time zone to the next.
Yeah, that's just those are the little things are fascinating too. Just like, oh wow, the world, like especially the United States, especially. Yeah. I've lived in Ireland and London. They're on their own thing, but in the United States, it feels like everything's on the East Coast time, no matter what time they're on, and they are on at 3 hours earlier, and that just will mess me up. Like I said,
but I will say, as I wind down, I would love to have some property out there. I know it's super expensive as shit out there, but I would love to have some property out there because I love the mountains. Oh my God, the mountains around LA and the beaches are beautiful. That's what I love.
I'm a the mansions.
And when we climbed the Hollywood Hills and you could see it pan from one end to the next, I love stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I love a beach, but to be in the mountains and have a view like that, I want something like that.
Every beach to me, the horizon looks exactly the same.
Right.
You go out there and there's a line where the water stops, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Now every mountain I've been on, like, ooh.
Right. People tell me, oh, I want to go. And I'm a water person. Like I love the water and stuff, but to me, mountains are different. Like every peak is different.
Right.
Like that's the other part of Vegas that I love too, or Nevada. It was like you could see they had different peaks and valleys. Oh my God, it was
beautiful. And Vegas does redefine flat.
It does.
You don't realize how just the little curvatures in our neighborhoods and the entire East Coast. When Vegas is the flattest place I've ever been to, we're like, I can go to that building. It's just a 5-minute walk. No, it's not. No, it's like 10 miles away. Like you don't realize how you just walk an hour. It's still in the same place.
And the air messed you up too. All that sand in the air, like my lungs start hurting. I was like, do I have COVID? I was like, why is my chest hurting? Freaking all the sand in the air.
Got Vegas chest. So, but yeah, anyways, we should talk about that later. Yeah. It's been awesome. I appreciate you having me on. I think the conversation's been full and rich, and I think we disagree on so many things but one thing we agree on is the discussion aspect of things, and the interest. So that's really cool, and I always appreciate that about you. So I will see you. Hopefully, I'll be here next week. But otherwise, for everyone else, just I said, happy holidays. Celebrate what you want to celebrate. Happy Festivus. That's my personal favorite. And just be cool, everybody. Don't forget to be awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. I know it's something different. I know, it's not too many people tuning in right now, but shit, it was the same way at the radio station too. But you got to make content and make content for future listeners. So, but yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. It is holiday season, so y'all be safe. Blessings to all those who may have lost somebody previously. So you got to celebrate this year without them being around. And then my heart still goes out to those that got laid off, especially all these big tech companies laying a ton of people off. So I hate seeing layoffs happen around the holidays. So, my heart goes out to you all, and I send as much good energy your way to get you into something new. And then, yeah, celebrate, man. Just have a good time, chill out, relax, regroup your mind. Life is not over with. Life is the most precious thing that we have. And yeah, stuff is tough now, but we've all overcome something. So just look at it like that whatever storm you're going through right now, it won't be there tomorrow. It'll probably be there tomorrow. It won't be there next week. So, yep, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in again. Love all my future watchers and listeners. I'm on the road to 10,000 on all of my social media platforms, from YouTube to Instagram to TikTok to, I don't give a crap about Facebook, but yes, I guess Facebook too. So yeah, I see y'all on the flip side. Peace out.
Peace.